Hello, welcome back to the NOTCAST. This is an unusual angle for you. You won't be used to this, but I have reasons. My reasons are small and black and furry, and there he is. He was asleep, now he is awake, now he's listening to me. Now, oh God, put those away. Nobody needs to see those, do they? Really? No, nobody needs to see them. This is Price. He's 3 years old, and he's extremely, very cute indeed. I'm quite a fan of him. And I may pick him up if he's in the mood and give him some cuddles later. Today, 10th of October 2023, NotCast 323. I am breaking with tradition. Normally, I talk about bands and albums and I go through them chronologically. I am skipping ahead all the way to the end with the new release this week of Roger Waters' Dark Side of the Moon Redux, the 2023 reimagining of an album that has its 50th birthday this year. And other things that have their 50th birthday this year include David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars farewell concert, and me, so it's in good company. Other things that also came out in 1973, Live and Let Die. Okay, maybe not so good company after all. There you go. There's also a couple of changes. First one is I am just kicking the back vestiges of cold or a flu. There's a cold and flu that's going around. Almost everybody seems to have it. It's really rotten. I've done the COVID test. It's negative, but it's been kicking my arse, to put it technically. I felt quite poorly indeed. I had to go to the doctors yesterday for an annual blood test and check, thanks to a hereditary condition. And that wiped me out for the rest of the day. I spent the rest of the day pretty much on the sofa, kind of watching television, going, I'm knackered, and sneezing and coughing a lot, and generally feeling quite poorly and having headaches and things. And the work that I do is pretty intense, in so much as it involves a lot of brain power. You need to be able to think quite clearly when you do it. And it feels like my brain's been stuffed full of cotton wool yesterday and most of today. So if I say anything which I later come to regret, I can blame it on the flu, right? But yeah, I've been feeling awful, really, really bad and grotty the past few days, and just not able to do anything. This is the first time so far in the past 4 or 5 days I felt up to doing anything much. So I'm giving it a shot and seeing how it feels. The second one is, and you can probably tell by the increased and improved audio quality, is I have a proper microphone now. It is connected there to my lapel. At least I think it's there. Hopefully you won't hear it rattling around. You won't hear the noise that it makes. And my voice will be nice and clear, and you'll be able to enjoy my so-called dulcet tones. Not that I know what dulcet is. Nobody ever says dulcet is a good thing. They always use it in a bad way, normally around the Birmingham accent. Oh, you taught me into my dulcet tones. And it's like, really, can dulcet ever be good? Who knows? Talking of people with dulcet tones, that sounds pretty much like Lemmy and Leonard Cohen, today's featured subject is Roger Waters' new studio album released on Friday, The Dark Side of the Moon Redux, which is not great. And I'm going to do, might be short, won't be sweet, a kind of review of this, which is breaking with the chronology of what I normally do. As you know, normally I do an album at a time, working chronologically through a band's discography to the end, which means the next Pink Floyd one I was going to be doing was 1972's Obscured by Clouds, which I rate very, very highly. Dark Side of the Moon Redux, I do not rate highly. This is probably my least favourite Pink Floyd studio-related album since Z by Identity, Rick Wright's 1984 synth pop duo, and then after that, possibly Fictitious Sports, which I'm not a fan of either. This is the worst or least enjoyable Pink Floyd related studio release for an extremely long time indeed. I do not rate this at all. As Roger himself says in the sleeve notes, and this is where I have to get the sleeve notes out and read them to you. Don't worry, he did an hour of reading out from his autobiography at the London Palladium show, so this shouldn't necessarily be a problem for anybody, right? He said, what is it now? He said, yes. He said, and to all of you out there in Punterland, I have no doubt I sometimes disappoint some of you, so be it. We are, after all, only human. Well, yes, it's fair to say that this is going to disappoint some people, and truly, truly disappointed. This is atrocious. I do not recommend spending any money on it. If you're going to spend anything on it, spend your time and listen to a streaming copy of Dark Side of the Moon Redux. Then be glad you didn't spend £11.99 on the CD. Unlike me, who bought it sight and sound unseen. So, Dark Side of the Moon, as you know, one of the biggest selling albums of all time, released in 1973. Here's a vinyl copy of it from 1973. If you're going to listen to a re-recorded version of Dark Side of the Moon, I strongly recommend the Flaming Lips and Star Death and the White Dwarfs with Henry Rollins and Peach's version of it, recorded in 2009, released here on a lovely shade of green vinyl. This is so much better than the Roger Waters one. It's actually pretty embarrassing to think that the original guy, Roger Waters, had anything to do with the recently released version of it. If you're going to listen to a re-recording of Dark Side of the Moon, go for this version. But if you absolutely positively have to own every Pink Floyd solo related album in the world, then that means you're going to buy this. And let's be pretty blunt about it. Effectively, it's a reclamation effort. Roger has as his marketing materials have made everybody know, he is the creative genius of Pink Floyd, the definitive article, because there can be nobody else in the band that is a creative genius, not even David Gilmour. And it's a way, I think, of reclaiming his ownership over what he regards as his work. As he says in the liner notes, it's my piece, what I wrote. It's his thing. He feels it's his, and he owns it, and he can do whatever he likes with it. And I suspect possibly having to give other people credit for it, it rankles a little bit. But it's not a great record, and it's not a great record for a number of reasons. First and foremost, the only contributions Roger makes to this record are vocals. He plays a small bass solo on Any Colour You Like and plays a VCS3, presumably on the run, which means that there are huge chunks of the LP, minutes at a time, where absolutely nobody called Roger Waters appears on it, and it is a creation by his studio musicians. Now, his studio musicians, Guy Seffert and John Carin, Joey Waronker, Jonathan Wilson on guitar, form part of his touring bands, and also played on the Is This the Life We Really Want album. And Is This the Life We Really Want is a much, much better record than Dark Side of the Moon Redux. And Dark Side of the Moon Redux, I think I'm just going to call it Redux from now on, by the way, is an ill-advised vanity project. If the only thing you're going to do on the album is basically sing, you should probably have a really good singing voice. Roger does not have a great singing voice anymore. You can argue that it's matured like fine wine, or perhaps it's gone off like milk, depending on your point of view. His range has shrunk. His voice is far gravelier than it used to be. Instead of singing, breathe in the tone which you're used to in the concert pitch and setting, then it sounds like Lemmy whispering in your ear, or perhaps Leonard Cohen. There are huge chunks of the album where Roger doesn't appear at all. And generally, the whole thing is he replaces pretty much all of the guitar solos with new vocal pieces where he talks about things. Not quite sure what things exactly. One is a specific dream from 2021. Another one is an email that he wrote to the former American poet laureate who now died of sinus cancer, Donald Hall. A third one would be a bit where he kind of reads out a bit from his autobiography, and you kind of end up going, does this make it better by taking the guitar solos off and replacing it with what appear to be random extracts from his hard drive of writings? And what's very, very clear from listening to this is Roger really does like the sound of his own voice. There's an awful lot on it. All the levity and the joy and the fluidity and the musical, like the exceptional musicality of the original Dark Side of the Moon has been squashed out and replaced by a new treatment that is really quite unexciting indeed. So, this is where I'm going to get bitchy. Although he says it's a homage to the great recording of 1973, Roger Waters effectively become his own tribute act with this. And it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like if, say, Alfred Hitchcock had lived an extra 20 years and decided to remake Psycho shot for shot in the year 1998. Anyone that's seen the 1998 remake of Psycho by Gus Van Sant, I think it's Gus Van Sant, well, no, it's not great. Sometimes when you go back to the well is dry. There is really, if anyone said, hang on a minute, lads, I got a great idea. Let's re-record Dark Side of the Moon. As he says in the sleeve notes to this, is that remake Dark Side, don't be fucking stupid. Are you mad? I agree. Don't be fucking stupid. Don't do it. It was good enough as it was, and you can't improve upon it. I mean, you probably could, because no record is perfect. But if you were going to take another approach to it, don't go for this. This is awful. I hate it. I wish I hadn't bought it. I wish it didn't exist. I wish it only existed in my imagination, much like the Jerry Lewis film, The Day the Clown Cried, the unreleased 1972 film about the Holocaust in which he plays a clown that is effectively the Judas goat of the concentration camps and leads children in to be gassed to death. It's an idea that in execution you can think about it from a remote point of view and go, I don't think that's going to work. But if you don't see it, you never realise the true horror of it at all. You just kind of have your imagination going, I'm sure it's pretty bad. But no, actually listening to this is worse because this is real. And it's like one of those things that's once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Like if you've ever seen a dead body, like I've seen maybe 3 dead bodies in my life, I can't forget any of them. You know, now I've listened to this, there will always be the knowledge that after Pink Floyd rode off into the sunset with their perfect finished object, is that there's always going to be one of the guys who's going to turn up later on and go, I didn't finish the Mona Lisa correctly. I now need to add a lot more spoken words over the top of it and take all the guitar solos out. It's no good. First and foremost, if you come from the auteur theory of artistry, which is that the creator, the thing that is written, the thing that is created, is more important than the medium, then this will blow that idea out of the water, because it's not just what you say, it's how you're saying it that matters, and how the songs aren't dramatically different in so much as, well, hang on a minute, the words have changed. There are no guitar solos. The drum patterns have changed completely. The bass is basically absent. The guitar solo that makes Any Colour You Like doesn't work. The vocals that are on The Great Gig in the Sky that make that song so memorable, they've been replaced with a spoken word poem to Donald Hall about how he's dying of sinus cancer. Actually, no, that's complete bollocks, isn't it? It doesn't work. A lot of the things that made Dark Side of the Moon so bloody brilliant have been squeezed out in this release and replaced with Roger loving the sound of his own voice. It starts off with Speak to Me, as indeed does Dark Side of the Moon. But Speak to Me is 2 minutes long. It's twice as long as the original version. The reason it's twice as long, as is highlighted in the booklet here, is that, in fact, Roger's taken the lyrics to a track called 3/4. 3/4 is one of my very favourite Pink Floyd songs. And instead of making this better, the use of 3/4 actually just draws attention to the fact that so much has changed. So you can think about, 3/4 has some wonderful lyrics about the memories of a man in his old age are the deeds of a man in his prime. You shuffle in the gloom of the sick room and talk to yourself as you die. Always a cheerful chap, Roger, as you've probably already worked out. Except if Roger's going to do it this way, it's like, the memories of a man in his old age are the deeds of a young man in his prime. You shuffle in the gloom of the sick room and talk to yourself as you die. Which to me sounds like when Stuart Lee is narrating his dog, and his dog talks like this all the time. For life is a short, warm moment, and death is a long, cold rest. Roger's voice is shut. He can't sing anymore. At least he's not shown any example of it on this record at all. He's taken any vestiges of musicality, tune, skill, competence at singing out, and replaced it with half-spoken, barely sung, Leonard Cohen style kind of chit-chat. And if you haven't got a great voice, then make sure you've got great lyrics. Leonard Cohen understood that. He really understood that. But if you haven't got a great voice, make sure your lyrics are amazing, and they aren't lyrics where you're kind of talking about, for example, some of these extra words. They're pointless. They don't add anything to it. I'm not even sure what he's trying to communicate here. He had a dream. It went wrong. It was a bit scary. He wrote an email to a poet that was dying. He ripped off his own lyrics from a song that he'd written in 1972 called 3/4. So Breathe is the song where you kind of go, right, so if Breathe is the song, that's the song that opens Dark Side of the Moon. Plenty of people know Breathe, right? Breathe in the air. Except the version on here sounds like someone's taken a 45 of Breathe and they've slowed it down to 33. Or perhaps if you play the 33 of Breathe at 45, you get something that's about the same speed and style as the Pink Floyd original. Removes all the guitar solos, all the guitar work, added keyboards but slowed them down, slowed down the song, took the drums and basically took out all of the flair and the individuality in the drum patterns, and then made the whole thing extremely minimal. Now, yes, I play drums. I'm not going to pretend I don't. Do I play it well? Not particularly, but I play it in a way that works for me. And I can hear when drum patterns aren't particularly imaginative or come out of a drum machine. The drums on this are very minimal. They're boring. They're one-dimensional, and they're very, very slow indeed. It really feels that as he's getting closer to death, Roger is slowing down and dragging the rest of the band with him. The problem with drums and percussion, really, really important. They're like punctuation in a song, or in a conversation. So you think about where people have stops, pauses, commas, when you go end paragraphs, and you kind of go, right, so now I understand, comma, for example, comma, that this is how a sentence is going to work, full stop. But then you kind of put that punctuation in by looking at the timing of the words and how you use them. Otherwise, you sound like William Shatner. I have had enough of you. Or E.E. Cummings. And where E.E. Cummings talks, there is no punctuation and there are no commas and there are no full stops and there are no semicolons and no exclamation marks, and everything is lowercase and it all goes at one speed and it all goes at one time and it all carries on in the same way and you have no idea what's actually going on, and then you start to lose control. And then you kind of go, well, the only limitations that you've got if you're going to be E.E. Cummings are around how much your breath you've got and how much breath control you've got and how deeply you can take a breath and how long you can talk without pausing, stopping, stammering, stopping, starting, coloning, commaing, or anything. And then it gets very, very boring indeed, because see what I mean? Good drumming is really, really important in a song. And if you want to hear the difference between a bad drummer and a good drummer, listen to Oasis with Tony McCarroll versus Oasis with Alan White. Now, I'm not a huge Oasis fan, as previous watchers of the NOTCAST will know, but Tony McCarroll was a stop-start drummer. He started and then he stopped. Alan White was a punctuation drummer, and he put punctuation into the songs to make the songs work and give them tempo, speed, flavour and shape and structure. Good drumming is really, really important. And whilst Roger says in the sleeve notes that Nick was a great drummer and a lovely man, none of that drumming is here. It just shows just how important having a good drummer is to a band. It really, really does. And then track 3 is On the Run. On the Run is basically a VCS 3 synthesizer with Roger adding new vocals. And those vocals are indulgent, they're verbose, they are lacking in... when I listen to it, I'm kind of going, all right, so you're telling a story, but what's the point? Is it all sound and fury signifying nothing? Is it like watching a Hollywood movie where there's no plot, but there's a car chase every 20 minutes? What's actually going on? And there's no sense of joy or innovation or anything in it. It's not even a studio recording of the original Guitar Jam version of On the Run, which was called the travel sequence. It's just like if someone said, I've got an idea, let's re-record On the Run and let's add Roger intoning a vocal to it. So in On the Run, for example, Roger's spoken word over the top of the track is him talking about, today I awoke from a dream. It was a revelation, almost Patmosian, whatever that means. And that's evidently another story. It began with some standard bullshit fight with evil. Except, of course, he talks like this all the way through. But that's evidently another story. It began with some standard bullshit fight with evil. In this case, an apparently all-powerful hooded and cloaked figure. We fled. Yes, I was not alone, but there's no escape. You're on the tee, but there's nowhere to tee the ball up. You're trying to pack, but the chaos is too great. You can't remember where you parked the car. The birds come over, but the gun falls apart. The train is late, or it doesn't stop. Your hands are too big. The world is too small. What on earth are you talking about, man? What the hell are you talking about? And why do you think that's better than the original version of On the Run? I'll give you a clue. It isn't. Then we have Time. Time is is a wonderful Pink Floyd song. It's got one of the best drum intros to any song I've ever heard. A kind of drum intro that has inspired whole careers and probably very formative on Neil Peart. But that's not there. And you don't get the guitar solos either. Those aren't there either. It's not just about the song. It's about the presentation of the song, the format of the song. And what Time shows you is actually a great song needs to include the arrangement and the production of it. And if you don't have that, no matter how good the song is, the song will not last. And then we have The Great Gig in the Sky. The Claire Torrey vocal part is removed. It's replaced with a keyboard line or a Hammond organ line that kind of broadly replicates a very simplified version of the Claire Torrey vocal. And then this email, which Roger sent to the poet as he was dying. It's a basic top-line melody, but it just highlights how much better the original is than this. It really does. We've got Money, which if you've heard it already or you've seen it on YouTube, is like the demo, but it's slower, it's grimmer, it's absent of any joy. It feels, well, as my brother said, if I wanted to be told off by an old man, I'd ring my dad. And Money feels like you're being told off and lectured by an old man. It's not particularly good, I'll put it that way. Doesn't have the guitar solo, of course. Doesn't have the ending. Doesn't flow into Us and Them. And Us and Them is, again, a solo Waters vocal. So without the counterpoint Rick Wright vocal, obviously Rick's dead, so he can't sing that. But without a counterpoint vocal, Us and Them becomes very one-dimensional. It becomes a lesser song. And then you've got Any Colour You Like, which has a bass solo from Roger that's very, very primitive and very basic. But replacing the guitar solos with vocals and with keyboards, it just doesn't work. And then the whole thing is... Look, this is awful. This is really not very good at all. If you are a fan of Roger Waters, then, great. I hope you really enjoy it. I hope it rocks your world and you think it's really important. I don't like it. All the things which made Dark Side of the Moon great are not here. So aside from the songwriting, all of the sound, the production, the arrangement, the imagery, the use of found sound, the use of carefully dropped interview processes and quotes, the guitar solos, the drum solo at the beginning of Time, all the things that make Dark Side of the Moon so bloody brilliant are not here. This is terrible. And if this is the last studio release that Roger's going to issue in his lifetime, what a disappointing damp squib of an ending. It's kind of like, I don't know, and I haven't seen this on principle, Expendables 4, where Sylvester Stallone is in it for 20 minutes, 10 minutes at the beginning, 10 minutes at the end, and the younger guys, Jason Statham, are in it and make it good. So basically, my short capsule review is, don't buy the Dark Side of the Moon Redux. It's terrible. It's awful. Thumbs down. Right. Well, I'm feeling okay after that. because I've obviously got this flu thing that's going around. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. Hopefully that saved you £11.99, and I will hopefully be in better health and be able to give you a more comprehensive another episode shortly. Okay, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful. If you've liked this, subscribe. If you don't like it, subscribe anyway. You don't have to watch them. And take care of yourselves and each other, as Jerry Springer once said. See you later. Bye.